Hi everyone, welcome to your mug video notes for mug 17. Today we're going to talk about sentence types. So for a sheet of notebook paper, please name date period in the top right hand corner, and as always, make sure you fill in the header completely with mug 17 sentence types. Previously we talked about sentence errors, in which we address fragments, run-ons, and comma splices. Today we move on to different types of sentences that can be created using proper punctuation. So simple sentences are up first. A simple sentence is made up of one complete subject and one complete predicate. So high school students come prepared and come knowledgeable on the concept of simple sentences because this is what we kind of grow up creating. However, as high school students, your simple sentences should still be long and well developed. So we don't really want something like "I like cheese." Um, so take a look at this. My grandmother's neighbor from across the hallway ate a whole pot of spaghetti and meatballs by herself. This right here is a simple sentence. Even though it's a little lengthy, it's well developed. We don't say she ate. We specify who ate what. It adds more context, more information, makes for a better structured, better developed writing. Compound sentences. I'm just going to put everything up on the screen. Here we go. So, a compound sentence is made up of two independent clauses. These independent clauses are joined by a comma and fanboy. When there is no conjunction being used, there better not be a comma in between them two. Instead, it should be joined with a semicolon. So remember, a conjunction is a word that connects clauses or sentences, parts of sentences together. In the example, we have the girl walked in the door and her mother gave her a huge hug. So we have independent clause 1, independent clause 2. When you have one I here and another I here, you have to make sure that there is that comma conjunction or a semicolon in this area here to join the two together. Complex sentences. These are an independent clause and at least one dependent clause, and they're joined by a subordinating conjunction. So subordinating conjunctions, if you remember, are at the beginning of subordinate clauses, which is the same thing as a dependent clause. So, her mother gave her a huge smile because she had gotten there just in time. Because is our subordinating conjunction. Once I cleaned my room, I was allowed to go to the movies. Once is our subordinating conjunction. Do make sure you jot these ones down because you never know when they might reappear. A really easy way to figure out if you're dealing with a complex sentence is you take the half on the right side of the comma and you read it. Her mother gave her a huge smile. If I can replace this right here with the period, and this, when I read it out loud, makes sense, it's a complete thought, we know that this is an independent clause. Then we try the same thing with the other side. In this case, we have, because she had gotten there just in time. Okay? It feels like this needs something else for it to be a complete sentence. Because she had gotten there just in time, what happened? We don't really know. So this needs more context in order for this part of the sentence to make sense. So we know that this is a dependent clause. It depends on the first half for this thing to make sense. So I plus D. In this case, we have a D plus I. Once I clean my room, and you'll hear that there's a little lilt at the end of room. Once I clean my room, and if you just stop the sentence right there, you're left wondering, okay, what happens once I clean my room? So that's how you know that this part is dependent. It needs the second half of the sentence for the first half to make sense. Compound complex. So these are sentences that contain more than one independent clause and at least one dependent clause. It's a combination of a compound and a complex sentence. So, even though Miss Ellie says she will binge watch Squid Games over winter break, first, she has to wrap up her grades for Q2, so she must also limit her distractions. Here's another example. Once I cleaned my room, I was allowed to go to the movies, and it felt great knowing I'd come back to a clean and comforting room. And the first one, even though Miss Ellie says she will binge watch Squid Games over winter break, that is our dependent clause. Then we have two or more independent clauses. First, she has to wrap up her grades for quarter two. She must also limit her distractions. In the second example, again, I'm starting with my dependent clause. Once I cleaned my room, then my independent clause, I was allowed to go to the movies. Next, independent clause. It felt great knowing I'd come back to a clean and comforting room. Notice my independent clauses are broken up with a comma and conjunction. In this one we have comma and this one we have comma so. So as a recap, let's take a look at this in terms of math. A simple sentence is just one independent clause. A compound is an independent plus independent, I plus I, often joined by a comma, conjunction, or semicolon. A complex is I plus D and maybe another D thrown in there. Compound complex is I plus D. Obviously, these I's and D's can happen in any order. These are not set in stone. Sometimes in a complex sentence, we might have the dependent clause happening before the independent. Like in this one, since I like fruit is dependent, then I have my independent. I eat fruit salad at least twice a week. So make sure you jot down the formulas, make sure you jot down these examples. I would even suggest that you label each part of these as, okay, this one's a D, let me label it or highlight it in orange. This part is independent, let me underline it or highlight it in yellow. Something to help you contrast the two different clauses. Here's some practice. So you're going to write the following sentences down in your notes and you're going to determine what sentence type they are, and then you're going to label how many independent clauses each one has. For example, the firefly named Phil flew through the forest. Whew, that is a lot of alliteration. The firefly named Phil flew through the forest. Well, we have a period here. There are no commas in between to flag to me that there might be more than one clause within it, but just to double check, So we are dealing with a simple sentence. We have one basic sentence, one subject, one verb. We're dealing with a simple sentence. There's one independent clause in here. For the next few, I want you guys to copy these down and practice figuring out what type of sentence these are. Number 1, he wanted to find some friends, so Phil blinked his bioluminescent bottom. 2, finally, he met a female firefly by the lake. 3, Phil blinked 3 times to ask the fine-looking firefly her name, semicolon. She blinked twice to say, bug off. Despite the blinking beauty's attitude, Phil took every opportunity possible to get to know her. It might help you guys to do these in your practice because you never know. They might show up on your assignment. So if you do these 4 already, it means that 4 questions on your assignment might be easier for you to do. If you have any questions on simple, compound, complex, and compound complex, so any 4 of these sentence types, please do let me know.